Larry Stephen Blizzard, born September 1st, 1945.
And where were you born?
Born in the little house across the street here, beside the church over here.
The old church?
The old church.
Did it have an address? It didn't, did it, at the time?
Yes, it was, I don't know exactly the address name right now, but...
So all your mail went to the post office?
Yeah, yes,
All your mail
yes.
went to the post office, okay. And can you tell me what the neighborhood looked like when you were growing up?
It's basically the same as it is right now. This is, in here, it's no real new homes. In fact, the house I'm living in here right now is probably the newest one's been built down here. No, I'm telling you, there's a couple that's been built here, but it hasn't changed a whole lot. It's typical same old little town.
Same old little town. Okay. Yeah, let me get a little bit close in here. There we go. That's it. That's what I need. There we go. Excellent. That's wonderful. Okay. And did the house have water, running water, or electricity when you were living there? A place across the street?
No water, no running water. We had electricity though.
You did have electricity. So how'd you get water? Can you tell us about that?
We had a spring down, we all shared, the neighbors shared a spring down there.
And how did you get the water? How did that work?
Just take a bucket and down the spring and just spring it up for your dishes or whatever, then your bath water. Then we didn't have the bathroom, we had the old wash tubs as we call them. That's what we'd take a bath in more or less.
Oh, and how many brothers and sisters did you have, or do you have?
8 brothers and 2 sisters. Got 3 brothers that are deceased now.
Okay. And can you describe a typical day when you were growing up?
Well, like
what was it like? When did you get up to? When did you get up as a kid? Do you remember? Let's talk about the time when you lived across the street.
Okay, basically it was everyday routine more or less. Get up, go to school.
What time did you get up?
We'd get up around 7:30, 8 o'clock.
And what did you have for breakfast? Do you remember your sort of favorite breakfast your mom used to make?
I guess most of the time would be like eggs, more or less. Eggs, cereal.
So your mom would get up and fix breakfast?
Yes.
Your mom, okay. And where'd you go to school?
Sandy Mount, the elementary school for 6 years. Then Westminster High School.
Okay. And what do you remember about your neighbors? Anything in particular? Anybody interesting that stuck out in your mind as a kid?
All neighbors were really friendly here. No one had a problem, no one had a grudge against anybody, but everybody got along real well. I mean, if somebody needed help, you go to a neighbor and no one would refuse you.
Is it the same today?
Yes, as far as I know, yes.
Pretty much.
Of course, there's a lot of newer people around now too, more. And
how does that work out? Is that working out okay? The newer people fitting in all right?
Yes, yes.
And what did your father do for a living?
Daddy, he worked down, it was called American Hamilton Piston Ring down in Baltimore. And he was down there, he operated furnaces and stuff down there for making the rings and piston rings and stuff like that.
Oh, and did your mother work in the home or outside of the home?
No, she didn't work at all.
She worked in the home. Okay, so she
at
was a
home,
homemaker.
okay, yeah, home,
okay.
Right.
Okay, and did you ever go with your father to work? Did you ever go down to where he worked?
I went down with him one time to interview for a job, and that's the only time I was ever down there, and they took me through the plant and showed me. But I never did get the job. I took a different job because running the Balmer from here was a little long ways to go. Well,
how'd your father get there?
They had, it was neighbors, it was about 5 or 6, like a couple from Westminster, and they would all meet up and they'd all carpooled in. Like one person would drive one week and the next person would drive the next week, so they took time sharing their car and all that there and all riding together.
Oh, okay. And do you remember your first job in Carroll County?
Yes, a little place called Rowan Controller out on Bethel Road.
Called what it was?
Rowan Controller it was called then at the time.
What'd you do there?
And out there you were making like cabinets and stuff like that. Not wooden cabinets, metal cabinets and things like that there.
So what was your job there?
I couldn't describe the name what it really was now, but I liked what I was doing and all. More or less, I was like a punch, drilling holes for metal cabinets and stuff like that there. I'd mark them off and make the holes, punch the holes in them for like your fittings when you put them together.
Yeah.
And a punch press operator, like bend the material, stuff. 2 or 3 different things I could do.
How old were you?
Right then, I was right around about 17, 18. 18, I'll get it here in a minute. Yeah, about 18.
Okay, okay. And what did you do for fun as a kid?
Well, we go to carnivals a lot, and we used to walk more or less like the Hampstead, which is about 6 Mile, and Reese. And we got what we call a swimming hole down here at the railroad tracks. We called it the mud seal, and we'd be in the creek all summer long, swimming and all.
Did you play baseball?
Yeah, we played. We had a little diamond down here. We had a diamond. We had one out the road. We played softball and baseball.
Yeah. Were you good?
Average, I guess.
Yeah. And let's see here, as a young adult, what was your school like? Do you remember maybe the size of your classes or anything about your teachers?
The school was more or less like a one room. I mean, it was a bunch of rooms, but we had, I forget how many people, but you didn't go to different classes. You more or less had the same teacher for everything, more or less.
And did you walk to school?
No, we had the school bus was running school.
Oh, you did. So it ran you up to Sandy Mountain
Right.
Elementary. Right. And so all your brothers and sisters and y'all went up there together on the bus. Well, the ones that were
in school. Yes, right.
Okay. And what do you see as the most difference between kids in school today and how school used to be when you were growing up?
Well, I don't know exactly how to describe it, but back then in school, I mean, if you did something wrong, you got corrected in school a lot, and they'd notify your parents. But
how did they correct you?
Well, to tell you the truth, one time I got caught smoking when I was younger, and I got a paddle, and I wouldn't come home and tell my father I got paddle, or I'd get it again. And which I thought that was good, but nowadays you
can't do that.
You can't do that anymore. Which now I mean, that would have been good for correction for bringing the children up nowadays. But now some days, I think now for people going to school and you're not being corrected there, it might have something to do with some of the drug problems or stuff now.
Yeah. And do you remember, where did your mother go for groceries? Where did your mother shop for groceries when you were a kid?
We had a store called Acme and AMP, and did most of the shopping, I believe, at Acme's, were in Westminster.
In Westminster? Was it like on the main street, or?
It was right off of 140 now up there.
Okay, okay. And where did your clothes come from? Did your mother make your clothes, or did she buy them, or where did you all get your clothes from?
Well, she bought them, and a lot of times people would give you clothes if you outgrow and stuff like that there, because Dad and Mom, they couldn't really afford a whole lot of stuff back then, because we raised 10 of us. It was rough for a little while, but things got better.
Wow, so 10 kids.
10 is what it was altogether, 10 of us.
And do you remember about going into the stores? Do you remember anything about the stores in Westminster, what it was like when you used to go in there with your mom? Or can you remember anything, sort of maybe even how they smelled, or what they looked like, or what was in there, or what the people were like? Anything at all that you could think of?
Well, they were laid out a little bit different and all like that there. And
how do you mean?
Just like everything was more or less together, and it wasn't that big of a store, more or less. You could find things closer together than what they are now. They're way spread out now. Like you got a food department one place, and you got other things.
So it was all like compact, not as much for sale. And
right, exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you remember any of the shopkeepers or salespeople from the period when you were a kid? Did anybody ever stand out in your mind?
No, not really. I can't remember, the people's names or whatever.
What about the people here in Patapsco that had the shops here? Do you remember anything about them? Because they used to have little stores here in Patapsco.
Yeah, the ones that I know growed up with them more or less down here, because I worked at the store down here called Moody's Store, and I worked for him, or just, you know, spending money to go to Carnival or something like that there, and they were real nice people.
Was that where the Whistle Stop is?
That's where the present Whistle Stop is right
And
now.
sort of what did he sell in that store? Do you remember?
Well, he had meats. He'd go like to Westminster, I think Hawn's or some place like that there, and buy like a quarter of a cow or half like that there, and he'd have it there. And he had bread and milk and canned stuff, and pretty well what you can get in the stores nowadays. But he wasn't real big. It wasn't real big. I mean, it was just convenient for you. Only have to walk to the store and get what you wanted.
What did you do when you worked there? What sort of chores did you have to do
Well,
there?
I'd stack his shelves for him when the food come in, and soda. I'd keep his soda machines filled up and stuff like that there. And
How much did he pay you?
I don't remember. It wasn't a whole lot at the time, but it was enough to have spending money. I guess maybe $8 or $10 a week, maybe something
Really?
like that there.
And so what did you spend your money on?
Well, I'd go to carnivals or in the summertime or something like that there. Then most candy and stuff like that there.
Junk food.
Junk, right?
What was your favorite place to go when you were growing up?
I guess the movies probably. Used to like to go to in Westminster at the Carroll Theater, it was called.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a bowling alley called Riffles in Westminster.
Oh, where was the bowling alley?
It's down on. It's right across from the old Armory in Westminster down there, which I forget the name of the street now. I know it, but I just can't think of it right now.
That's okay. And what can you tell me about the carnivals? I mean, you keep mentioning that. Can you tell me a little bit about what the carnivals were like? What did they have there? What did you do there?
Well, at the carnivals, I liked the music, country music and all, and they always had country music there. And then I liked all the rides that they had, like the Ferris wheel and some of the rides that they had. And as a get together, you see a lot of people, meet people and all like that there, which the same as today, but they're a lot bigger and better right now, I'd say today. But they were fun back then too.
Yeah. Let's see. And your favorite thing was to go to these carnivals. That's what you were saying.
Carnivals and like the bowling alley.
What would you have most liked to have changed about Carroll County when growing up in your early years?
I couldn't say anything. I mean, I've been here 63 years, and I love it. I mean, it's you're not. You got all your neighbors, like everybody you know. Seems like you know everybody, but I wouldn't change a thing about it.
And can you think of any one thing from childhood, any one vivid memory that really pops to mind from your childhood? Any one thing that really stood out?
Yes, the flood in Agnes, something I've never seen. It washed 2 bridges out down here.
Oh, so can you tell me about that?
Yeah, they were old bridges. There's one out here right at the sections of Wesley Road and Matapsco Road. That bridge, they had the old time like tunnels going through, like 3, well, not tunnels, but they were pipes. Like it was only not that long, maybe 8 foot long, something like that there. And you had 3, and the bridge, when the trees and stuff, the flood come in, it come down, clogged them up, and just washed the whole bridge out.
Oh.
Then we had one about down here, down at the railroad tracks again. It was another bridge that washed out down there, and I remember the Army engineers come in and put a bridge in temporarily till they got one fixed up for us.
So the bridges that are now across Wesley and Patapsco Road are new bridges since Agnes?
Since Agnes, right.
And
yes.
Agnes was in 76,
76, I think.
Okay.
I believe.
Okay. Okay.
Uh-oh.
Oh, there you go. And let's see. If you were to describe what is best about Carroll County to someone who's never visited, what would you say?
It's pretty. It's a town, and it's not. I'd say it's quiet. In other words, it's no crime or nothing that I have down here seen any crime or nothing like that there, and it's quiet. It's just you're not in the city where you noise and all kinds of noise things like that there and crime going on. But as far as Carroll County here, I can't say there's ever been really anything bad that I can say about it. But I would recommend people, if they liked it out, it's not no developments, not a whole lot of new developments going on. So everything you see right now and where I'm living right now is, it's no one going to build around you. It's not enough. It's just a rural area where you can't, no one will build around you.
Okay. Now I want you to talk to me about the old church that you lived in as a kid across the street. Can you describe, for example, did you go in through the center doors, or was that side door put in when you lived there? Did you go in through the front door? Which
Yes,
was
the front
two
door.
double doors?
The two double doors, yes.
So that side door wasn't there?
It might have been there a little bit later put in there, but yeah.
Okay. So when you walked in through the front door, was there, at one time, was there a stained glass window over the archway? Do you remember if there was, what was over the archway, or was it just plain glass?
I think there was stained glass, a few in there.
Okay. So when you walked into that church, can you tell me what it looked like? Because with 12 people living in that building, how was it, did you have a second floor and you lived, you know, up and down, or
Yes,
was it all wide open?
We had upstairs to it and had like three or four bedrooms upstairs.
Mm-hmm. And then the downstairs.
And the downstairs.
So what did it look like on the inside? I mean, can you describe sort of how maybe it was furnished or how it was laid out? Where was the kitchen, for example, in there?
The kitchen was more or less, it was laid out a little bit. The kitchen had like a separate room in it.
Where was the kitchen? If you were
downstairs, if you walk into the door, the kitchen would have been straight back of the church where the kitchen would have been.
All the way against the back wall?
Against the back wall would have been, yes.
So what was on the ground floor when you walked in? What would you see? What was the ground floor of the church? Because you had the upstairs where the bedrooms were, and then the ground floor. So what was that like? What did that look like?
It was just normally a table, couple tables, and your china closets, as you call them. And that way for your television and all, but it was a little bit crowded. You had two separate rooms down there, like but it was still a little crowded for all of us. And
so
all.
Two rooms, sort of a living room and in the kitchen, sort of thing.
Sort of, yes. Like
and can you remember what years your family lived there?
I'm going to say, well, like I said, I was born and raised right beside the church, and I lived there. So,
oh, beside the church.
Yeah, so, right where you're living now is where I was born. My grandma was there. Mom, all 10 of us were born at home. And
in my house? In
the house that you're living in right now, yes.
I did not know that.
My grandmother lived there, and she delivered to Mom's, all her grandchildren most of the time.
So you lived in my house first.
Born there.
Born there.
Yeah, yes. Cause
and then, so then
that we were living in the church at the time, but I mean, I was just
born
by birth when Mom was ready. So.
How great! So your parents lived in the old church next to me.
Yes.
And your grandparents lived in my house.
Right.
And you were all your brothers and sisters were born in my house.
No, not all of them. Just a few of us.
A few of you. Okay. Okay. And your grandmother delivered you.
Right. Yes.
Wow, that's impressive. And
in fact, she delivered maybe a few other here in Patapsco too.
Really, your grandmother?
Yes,
she was like a midwife, was she, or just an experienced?
Just experience, I think.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And can you tell me about? Let's talk about life here in Patapsco. I mean, for example, I know we talked about you going to the carnival and everything, but what did you actually do at the end of the day? You came home from school. What did you do when you came home from school? I mean, were there activities or things that you did, or what was it like? I mean, did y'all sort of hang out on the porch, or what did you actually do? Do you remember any typical day?
A lot of times we'd all be down at the store there, and he would stay open till like 10 o'clock at night. And, you know, you get down there and have a Coke or an ice cream or something like that there. Then if you get home with school, everybody would go to the creek down here we called the Mud Seal, and go swimming, something like that there.
But what would you do in the wintertime when it was cold and you couldn't do that?
Well, the wintertime, we used to go sleigh riding. I mean, I remember back then when the snowed, you know, it was hard for the snow plows to get in here sometime. We used to go up the hill, up past your house, and come down and go clean out across the railroad tracks down here where the whistle stop is. We'd come down the hill, and because a lot of times if snow plows, it just didn't have enough time, and we'd be sleigh riding right out on the roads there, on the county roads.
Oh, wow.
Then we'd have up in back of my house, the hill up here, we'd come down them hills too, we'd all it'd be a bunch of kids, you know, everybody just, wintertime, when it snowed, we loved it, sleigh riding all the time. Then we made a couple we made like homemade go-karts, something we just figure out something, get an axle or a rod and put 4 wheels on it and try to put brakes on it ourselves and have fun in that there. And
that's great. Well, it must have been great having so many brothers and sisters. You always had somebody to hang out with. You always had your own crowd.
Right, yeah.
So I guess the whistle stop was sort of the sort of central focus point of the village.
Just the general store, yes.
And that's where everybody hung out.
And the post office was in the post office. In fact, we had a post office right across from the church here, right beside the church a little while there before we went to Finksburg then, because it used to be Patapsco Cove post office here. And that
was it the whistle stop first was the post office and then the little post office?
In the Moody store down there, the post office was there first. And
then when did it come up here to this little house?
I don't know exactly what the year was, but it was there for, I'm going to say back in the 60s, early 60s, and it closed and the office went down to Finksburg.
Oh, okay, that's what happened. Okay, so I was thinking it was the other way around. Okay.
Because I remember, and like going back again, what the things to do, used to love to see the train pick the mail up outside the store down there.
How did they do that?
It just, they had it like an arm on a train, that thing there, you'd get it and they'd just grab a bag, you know, as the postmaster, he'd put it out there, and the train would keep on moving a lot of times if it didn't stop. It was just like an arm, like a mechanical arm, something like that there, and it'd take the bag there.
And did you ever catch that train? Did you ever ride the train?
Yes, we had a passenger train, went from there to Westminster. I don't even remember, it was a quarter, I think, to go to Westminster, but it left around between 6 and 7, but you had to get a taxi cab to come back home, because it would only pick you to take you to Westminster. Or you could go to Baltimore, but you couldn't get your round trip from Westminster. You couldn't get a round trip like we leave on Saturdays or Friday evenings. And 6 or 7, then you had to find your own way home, get a taxi or whatever. And
from Baltimore?
From Westminster.
Oh, Westminster.
Baltimore, I very remember, I mean, not long after I wasn't that old, then they quit running, the passenger trains quit running.
What was it like to ride the passenger train? Is it very different from what they look like today?
Well, I haven't been on a train since 1966 when I was in the Army. Last time I've been on a train, so I really couldn't tell you. But I mean, it was fun. I liked it. You go up through Tapsco there. It wasn't no big city or nothing. You just see wilderness and all, like, you know. And
do you remember any of the animals that used to come around? There used to be different kinds of animals down here, didn't there? I mean, you see a lot of different kinds of animals.
Well, you see deer and foxes and groundhogs, possums, and a few things like that there. Yeah. Rabbits and squirrels.
Yeah, the same we still have
today.
Same
as we have today.
Okay. And let's see here. So, So you were born and raised here. You lived here your whole life. What did you do for a living for most of your life, most of your adult life?
I worked for Black & Decker for 34 years in Hampstead.
What did you do for them?
Over there, I'd run machinery. I was running grinders for a while and milling machines. And
what did they make? Tools?
Yeah, we made tools. We made power saws, drills, and stuff, household tools items and all.
Oh, and you worked for them 34 years?
34 years, and about the last 10 years, they were starting to close down. Then I worked in the warehouse for trucks come in. I'd unload trucks and load stuff to ship it out and stuff like that there.
Okay, I didn't even know they had a Black & Decker. It's closed down now, the Black &
No,
Decker.
it's still, they got what they call a powdered metal plant in Black & Decker. But they've sold the building out of Chicago, but there is a Black & Decker still got a place in there called Powdered Metal, but they're just leasing the building now. They sold it, in other words, they're leasing it back from the people they sold it to, parts of it. Okay. And there's different things in it now, different shops over there, different companies.
Okay. Do you have any, we haven't talked about your family. Do you have any children?
Never got married.
Never got married, okay. All right. And your brothers and sisters, there's 10 of you. Can you tell me the names of everybody, starting with your mother and father?
You want the deceased and all?
I want everybody. Start with your parents
All right.
and go down from the oldest down to the youngest.
Okay, Daddy's name was George Blizzard,
Okay.
and Mom's name was Claudine Blizzard.
What was her maiden name?
Wagner, Claudine Wagner.
Okay.
Then the oldest brother was George Edward, and the next one would have been Russell Blizzard, and he got killed right after graduation, about 2 weeks after he graduated from school in an automobile accident.
Oh.
Then, well, on down Mel, there was Mel. I'm giving you the oldest brothers. Then there's Rowan.
Mel a boy or a girl?
Melvin, boy,
okay.
yeah. Melvin Leroy Blizzard. Then the Rowan Blizzard next. Then Joan Blizzard would be next. Then Douglas Blizzard next. Then myself, Larry Blizzard. Then I got a sister, Sylvia Blizzard. Then I got another brother, Wilson Blizzard, and the youngest one, Gordon Blizzard.
Oh my gosh! Do you know how your parents met?
I don't really know. No, I probably could, but I just can't recall it right now.
Okay. All right. And so they must have been married a long time.
Yes.
Yeah. And then, so when did your family move out of the little church?
We moved right here where I'm at right now. I think it 1958, I believe, is when the.
So you moved into the house that was on this lot here.
Now, all the brothers and sisters wasn't born in the church here, but there was some in Carrollton. The older ones were Carrollton. Now, myself, I think it was about 4 of us over here. And that's, well, like I say, I'm 63, and the others, I got a couple that's older than me, so they might have been born somewhere else.
What were the meals like? Let's say a typical, you come home and you're going to have your evening supper. Can you remember anything about that? Like maybe what did your mother fix?
We loved fried chicken, and Mom used to fix, they say Mrs. Claudine had fixed the chicken, and people come up there, and I'd have to wait. She'd feed the neighbors before she feed us, more or less. Which is, I mean, like out there, well, wait, you can wait. They want some chicken or something like that there. And that used to make me a little mad. Like, I wanted chicken, but they give it to somebody that wasn't in the family. But she would do that there. And squirrel pot pie with Daddy and all of us hunted. We all hunted, and we had squirrel pot pie, which is, loved it, real, in the wild. And some people say, well, how in the heck could you eat a squirrel or something?
Tastes
rabbit,
like
and a lot of people a lot of people wouldn't eat rabbit, but we loved it. And like hunting, when the seasons were in for it, we'd have that there.
Wow. So what'd you have with the chicken? Like potato salad or mashed potatoes?
Mashed potatoes and stuff like that there, and gravy, make the gravy.
Did you have any garden or anything? Did your mom grow any vegetables?
Yes, we had small garden, not real big, but we had sweet corn, tomatoes, and stuff like that there.
Where'd you grow that? Out behind the church?
No, we didn't have it at church, but where I'm living now, I had it right up here where I'm living now, right in the field. But I got it all planted in grass now. But we used to have corn and tomatoes and cucumbers and stuff like that there.
So you
cabbage,
had like a little
lettuce,
allotment up the street.
Yeah, just
okay. Well, that's wonderful. And so I guess your mom canned things.
Yes.
A lot of stuff. Put stuff up for the winter.
Right.
Can you tell me what? I'd really like to get a picture of what it was like, what it looked like inside that church. Can you remember? Maybe I'm very curious about the painting and the walls. Did the walls have on them a red sort of scalloping along the top? What did the walls? Did you paint over them or what?
I think yes, we painted over. I'm pretty sure that it was painted over. Yes. That church was moved from. I believe up in Carrollton, was moved down here. They said the horse and buggy, if things moved it down here in 1905, I think it was.
1909, actually.
Or 1909.
Yeah,
whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't remember a whole lot about it, but just typical, I mean, just like, say, I think they painted over it. It wasn't like if you'd walk in a church nowadays. I don't remember. It might have been 1 or 2 like stained glass in there or something like that there.
And what about the basement? What's the basement like in there?
We just, it wasn't dug out real deep or anything. It was just where you'd go in there, you put stuff, dirt floors and all like that, never cemented or anything in there.
The whole thing is a dirt floor?
Yes, it was, yes.
Okay. And, but if you had that room in there, because I know they've taken out he took out something, you had it partitioned between the top floor and the
Yes,
ground
yes,
floor.
You had the stairway. I don't know if the stairway's there now
It
or
is.
not.
It's still there.
Uh-huh.
It's still there. But was there much headroom upstairs? I mean,
Yes,
it was a full.
you had the full headroom, and yeah, you
did.
could go up there. Yes,
So with 10 kids, how did everybody sleep? I mean,
Well, all 10 of us didn't live there at the same time. I mean,
Okay.
it was only like, let's see, I'd say 5 of us more or less, but
okay, at one time.
at one time, yes.
Given time, okay, because such a broad range in ages, I should think.
Right.
Between what's the?
Well, it might have been 6 or 7 because 1 or 2 brothers, they got married young and they moved out then, whatever.
Okay. You remember that show, The Waltons, and how
The
everybody
Waltons,
used to
yes.
say goodnight?
Good night.
I
yeah, good
wondered
night,
if it was
John
something
Boy.
like that.
No, we haven't. We didn't do that. I mean, everybody went to bed on their own, more or less, unless.
Okay.
We never was told exactly time to get in or whatever, because we were just trusted. Because I'd come in a little late sometime, and Mom, she'd never go to sleep till she heard me. I'd be the last one to get in out of the, more or less.
Did you sleep in bunk beds, or were all the beds singles laid out on the floor?
They were all single beds, yes.
Laid out on the floor. So.
And a couple of us, we slept together then.
Yeah?
Back then. Yes.
What did you do? I mean, how were your clothes arranged? Did you all have dressers, or was stuff in boxes? Like my family, we had a big family, and a lot of our clothes were in boxes.
Well, we had similar to that there too. I mean, there was some closet room space like that there, and some you just lay like in a box beside your bed or something like that there. And
that's where you put your stuff. Where did you do your schoolwork? Did you sort of all sit around the big table in the downstairs in the kitchen and do your schoolwork, or?
Pretty well, yes. We had a table with benches, like a big table with benches. Didn't have a whole lot of chairs in, but we just had the regular benches, about hold 4 or 5 of you on each side, like the table.
Yeah.
We'd have 2 benches, maybe 1 or 2 chairs, but most of it was all benches and all.
Well, the church is in pretty bad shape now. Do you think it should be saved or just torn down?
I would like to see it be saved if possible.
Yeah. How would you like to see it used? What do you think would be a good use for it? It's just used as a shed now.
Yeah, right. I don't know. It could be like something maybe put in there, like a little library or something, maybe, or something like that. There, I would say maybe.
Yeah.
It would be fixed up inside and
Yeah.
on the outside, something like that. There,
That's
just
exactly what I have in mind. Yeah. Okay, good. Now, is there anything in particular you'd really like us to know about Patapsco and living here in Patapsco? What has it meant to you? You've spent your whole life here.
Like I said, the beautiful little town here, and like I say, everybody, always your friends and all. I mean, I loved it, and like I say, no enemies or nothing like that. Everybody would help one another and all, and you'd go anybody's neighbors, and they'd all help you.
Yeah. So.
But
would you have liked to have lived anywhere else?
maybe at times I might have thought maybe going to the city, be closer to where more things you could do, and like Westminster or somewhere, which wasn't that big then, or it's still not that big. But overall, I loved it here.
Yeah, and you still feel that way today.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, well, that's great. All right, and so a lot of your brothers and sisters still live in the area, or not?
Yes, Doug lives about 1.5 miles from me. Rowan's about 2 miles. And I got one, Gordon lives in Manchester. And my oldest sister, she lives up Sevillesville, up near Camp David. And Sylvia, she lives in Pennsylvania. So,
okay, great. And that's all that's left?
yeah, there's 7 of us now. I think I named it all. Gordon, Doug. Well, Wilson, he lives in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So that's the one I left out.
Do you all ever get together at Christmas or anything?
We used to years and years ago, especially when Mom was living. I mean, it'd be almost every Sunday, or something like that there. In the summertime, we'd have cookouts and things like that there. We used to be we were real close then. I mean, we're close now. We'll have cookouts and things now, and we'll all go to, like, my sisters or wherever, and we still do that sometime, like maybe the 4th of July sometime. We do that, or holidays especially, go to one place like that.
In the back of the church, outside on the ground, there are the remnants of a well, a square thing. Can you tell me what that was for?
Well, we actually did have a well there too, a spring there. It was a spring where we got water too, for like wash clothes, you know, and stuff like that there. And it was water. I mean, it was actually a well there too.
And what about the back house? Where was that actually situated?
Just down, just more or less down there, like where the fence is now, where
Oh,
you're
really?
at down there.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
'Cause I'm trying to figure out what the place looked like at the time.
Uh-huh.
So that little spring.
Then we had a little barn right behind the church, like not directly behind it, but it was an old barn that was been torn down years ago down there, and we had the ball field down there too. I mean, us kids, we'd all go down there and mow it, and we had to cut trees, stuff down, and keep it mowed on our own and all like that there, and we all played ball there.
Did you ever find any old artifacts from when people used to live here before? I know the Indians used to live here. Do you know if anybody ever found anything?
I can't recall right offhand.
No? Okay, okay. And let's see. Is that everything I need to know? Oh yeah, the church had a bell tower on it. Did it have the bell tower on it when you lived there?
Yes, yes.
And was the bell still in it?
Still ringing, yes. You could still ring. We had a rope. You could go out there and pull the string and ring the bell.
Really?
Yes, uh-huh.
Did you ever do that? I mean, did they?
Yes, done it a couple times,
Yeah?
yes. Uh-huh.
So
Just for curiosity, you know, to hear it ring, you know, more or less.
I don't suppose you knew of any of the people that used to live there when it was actually a church, or used it when it was a church. Do you know any of the history of it?
No, really don't.
Okay, okay, great. So your grandparents lived in my house.
Yes.
Isn't that so? And what were their names?
Willard Taylor and Liza Taylor.
Oh, they were Taylors.
Bertha, yes.
Okay, so it was your
Well,
mother's.
no, I'm sorry. My grandmother was remarried to Taylor, but she was a Wagner.
She was a Wagner.
She was a
Okay,
Wagner.
so that's
yes,
how your
yes,
mother was
right,
a Wagner.
Right,
okay,
right.
okay, all right. And then, so they lived there. Okay, all right. Anything else? Anything in particular you'd like to say, or tell me anything at all about living here or living in Carroll County?
No, just overall, like I say, I just love it. It's a small little village town here, whatever, not town, village, but I just love it. Like I say, it's quiet, never no noise or nothing going on, and like I say, everybody is good people in this area and all.
Good place to live.
Good place to live, yes.